Bruce, 151, a eulogy. I drove up the street past the beige movie studio and stopped. The walls were sunny and happy, curved in the deco style of Hollywood. My husband was in the seat beside me after a night of pain and delirium. He would sit bolt up in bed and say, "Has she got her pills? Excuse me, did she take her 14 pills? I took all my 27. Did he take his pills? I took mine. Did I?" He would finally wake up to me. We would touch and rub and comfort. Everything was wrong. And then we would try to lie back down. We both wanted desperately to sleep. We'd been together for 18 years. That morning, right at the mouth of the movie studio, a Saab in front of me stopped at a traffic light. I stopped behind. The Saab license plate read 151. 1 F-I-F-T-Y 1. The Saab was black and shiny and new. My husband was 50 and white, or was that yellow, and not so shiny. He was on his way to a hospital for a C-scan. Would he make it to 51? Was he sick at 49? Was 50? Bingo? Could he read my thoughts? Did he read the license plate? I said nothing. The Saab said 151. It was between the Saab and me. Way back before I met my husband, when I was lean, fresh, an antenna open to the songs and strings and symbols of the universe, coincidence visited me so strongly one week that I thought I might suffocate from meaning, drown in beauty, or become fixed in a posture of grace like a bug in amber. Maybe I was doing too much yoga. In that context, a white Saab drove into my life. I let it be a little angel, a symbol. It meant, to me, that there was meaning. Thereafter, when I was lost and needed meaning, a white Saab would putt across my lens. Primary process, a psychiatrist would say, and later did. But at the time, I had read or dreamed that in Indianapolis an eternity ago, like in the 50s, Kurt Vonnegut opened the first Saab dealership in the United States. Vonnegut stuff again. Some novelists appear to pick my brain as well as their own. Back then, white Saabs continued to drive prophetically across my angel eyes, my Vonnegut. Put. The white Saab would answer my seeking mind. I was lost, it would find me. It would not give an answer, it would be the answer. Any old white Saab would assure me of the white Saab. This vehicular assurance I kept until now, dear reader, to myself. The best ones were the dull, old white ones with that nice round rump of the 60s. They took the fear away. Put. Meaning. Comfort. Each one a bell rung by someone else. Now, here before me this morning is this black Saab. Black Saab. What a bell. Shiny, square, new, strong, and quietly screaming 151. My husband has a vial of iodine in his hand. What was all the magic for? How could there be meaning if there was death? Tumor. Must have echoed 1 trillion times in his brain and only 10,000 in mine. How could one accommodate being told one has a tumor, and they can't take it out? The medical side offered death, or chemo plus death. No one would touch that tumor with a 9mm scalpel. How long would this death take? How terrible would terrible be? Was there to be a behavior adjustment? Did a behavior grow the tumor? Would diet shrink it? A little chemotherapy, perhaps? Maybe a pinch of Mexican magic medicine to balance the profundity of the hopelessness of Western medicine? Or should it be just painkillers and upgiving in the hospice? Something should have been done sooner, you say. Well, thanks for that advice. I'll use it next time he dies. Could Sigourney Weaver fight off this alien growing in that stomach? Was she available? Should his wife have been nicer to him? That would be me. Did I kill him? If not, where did this tumor come from? Should he have been nicer to himself? Chew his food 22 times. Never yell. Been luckier. Or was this tumor always on order, genetically coded, delivery promised at a certain moment like Chinese food? Or was it just God? Tumor, 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 out, out, out. Ha, ha, ha. He'd long felt bloated. Now he was finally thin. That weight loss was not so charming. He'd long hidden private things from others. Now he talked about philosophy, fun, and body images he thought he'd never share. He once raged down arty streets looking for a hip fix, and now he would stroll down vitamin aisles of Mrs. Gooch, looking for solutions with yellow eyes. Sometimes he accepted his fate and became eternal. Other times the pain of the body and the agony of the ego cried out for help. Stop this, grab that, buy more. Buy well, read labels, give me a pill, give me a rub, let me sleep. You go sleep. He must have been harboring this for months, maybe over a year, a lifetime, a millennium perhaps was more like it. Was this betrayal, or was it truth? To have the body harboring that surprise, and then pop goes the weasel. Was it fair? What did that mean? Meaning, rushing by like on a train, never to be seen again. Look, there goes the landscape. That tumor, those spots, that skin, those eyes, and the itches. Truth failed me. Grammar crumbled. Sleep fled. Hiccups came. Everything but death failed me. Oh, there was life, of course, but what happened to meaning? What of sense? This was life? This was only rubbing and thrashing and rushing in the car and looking at the dark, my mask pressed open at night for the sorrow and the pain. Another week passed. Week 4, week 5. The sickness serrated and ratcheted down notch by notch. We heard only about it, read only about it, talked only about it, got calls only about it, and did things only about it. No time for thought. You were getting the pill, washing the spill, making the call, shopping the mall, reading the internet, providing the counseling, kneading the back, rubbing the feet, swabbing the brow, keeping the list, rearranging this room, changing that room, saying hello and goodbye to those who knew, cubing carrots and heating broth at 3 a.m., being grateful for 3 hours of sleep. 2 would be nice. A drop would get me to tomorrow. Maybe if daylight would just come, I could pretend I was awake, drive somewhere, get something, go on. Hollow-eyed and terrified, I was the pencil being written, my husband, the man being dying. Okay, sit right down here and listen. If this is really it, he said the day after the doctor's prediction of fatality, here's what I want you to do. I'm going to tell you this just once. I want to be cremated, and I want my ashes thrown on the tracks at Penn Station. And now we'll never mention this again. No discussion. Next day, he sat me down again. Same chair. I've changed my mind. I don't want to be in Penn Station. I want you to go with Cousin Dick to Queens. I want to be in the 76 Road and Queens Boulevard station, not Penn Station. And on the playground, you know the playground down the block? And in front of the building. I'd heard that word several thousand times in my 18 years of husband. The building would be the building his grandfather built. I agree. Ashes in Queens. This is real. The next week was in Mexico, where there was to be a magical cure from orchids. The last evening of 5, he could no longer stay at the Orange Hotel. I dashed on foot from there over to the clinic to spend the night beside him while he slid profoundly toward his ultimate exit. I dutifully picked up a carton of chocolate silk soya milk, raisins and nuts, and placed it all in a styrofoam coolie box. There was no food at the clinic. The styrofoam box was strapped over my shoulder, loosely lidded, and making that awful dry styrofoam sound with every step. Over my other shoulder hung an overnight bag to keep me on my vigil. As I approached the cement bridge to dip into the underpass, a short, gray-haired man approached, looking steadily at me. His look was not ominous, but it was firm. Right then my shoulder strap broke and down shot the styrofoam box to the ground. The gray-haired man lifted it right back up to my arms like a dancer. We genuflected and walked on in opposite directions. No chocolate silk soy river in the gutters of Tijuana, just my heart poured there. I walked past the highway mural to the clinic and this little room with the Spanish-speaking nurse outside and the lounge chair inside for me. Next morning, he needed emergency plasma. Thank God Cousin Ron landed in Tijuana right after that. Together we managed to get Bruce into the Honda in hopes that the border guards would ignore the drugged man in the back seat. Ron drove. I stared. When my husband took his final breath 2 nights later in Los Angeles, all was well. Dozens of friends had come to the hospital and checked in. It seemed that Edith Head designed the nuns' costumes, and Bruce surely approved. The failing, gentle, now restful body of the newly sacred soul of my husband lay on a very clean bed. He looked good. He looked completely different from how we all knew him a month or 2 ago. He was his tiny, spaceship, dying self. The American hospital was providing all the peace and care a place on earth could give. He had only 30 hours to live. The doctor gave him a couple more days than that, but now Bruce was in a hurry. When aroused out of his morphine sleep, he was more awake than he'd ever been, and he was ready. Hi, I love you. I don't know where I am. He was flying high. To his bedside came his guru, his mother, his wife, his friends, his cousins, his niece, his nephew, angels, and Wyatt. Wyatt sang a song. The final passage was watched over by 7 pairs of loving eyes. 14 hands held on to his little smooth body. His feet were the smoothest of all. He looked like a leader as he shrank and got smoother. I'll go first, he seemed to be saying. And so he led us to the unfamiliar, warm dance floor of death. Was he the leader of the band, the dancer, or the floor? And he was gone. In my house, the memorial, the clatter, and then the silence, because now everyone is gone. Everyone is gone. A couple of weeks later, the little white box of husband remains was given to me in a little storefront mortuary in the valley, one of those late afternoons when the valley's just a dream. Hello, Mrs. Tabor. We've been waiting for you. Who would have known that the box of ashes would be so heavy? Are we sure this is Bruce? Yes. Who would have known it would be so large? But then a whole human compressed in a box is quite a thing. My next job was to release it and follow his wishes to be sprinkled in Queens, but first get it home and drive over this lump in my throat. I put my hand on the box as I drove, just as I typically would put my hand on his thigh. Why not? Home came the box. At first it sat in the window. It was astoundingly unreal. Cousin Ira and Ula dropped in the first night. We moved some time along together. Come morning, I draw the blinds to prevent the sun from roasting it. I even leave the air conditioning on when it's hot. A couple of days go by, and then Saturday I had my first day home alone with the box. I go to it that morning. A bright green bug sits right on the corner, calling me with its leg. There were 4 tiny hairs on that right back leg. I say, hello? He rubs that leg again. I say, hello? He rubs it again. Bruce? I look around to see if I'm crazy talking to a bug. The bug didn't answer, and neither did anyone else. Sid said that I could take my time spreading Bruce's ashes. I'm glad Sid knows these rules. I didn't have to hurry. What a gift. And how did Sid get so smart? I let the box sit there. I moved it to the shade side of the room one evening when I got home and I saw that I'd forgotten to draw the blinds. The box was okay, presumably, but 2 fat candles were plopped over like nice melted penises or tiny elephant legs. Either way, it was nice that they missed the box, but the box should move, I thought. So I moved it, and it stayed in its new place for 6 weeks. It took 6 weeks to screw up my courage to carry the box one night over to the dining room table, sit ceremonially, where I would do the deed, remove the white wrapper, and open the box. Carefully laid aside the white wrapping that I'd come to know so well, and then I saw a chocolate-brown box that was actually my husband. How I had thought of it as a white box, but it was chocolate. I had thought of him as a person. Now he was dead, presumably in this chocolate box. Okay. The candles were lit, and no more procrastination required or written. So, I had to pry the brown plastic lid off. What strange force had snapped on this lid? Who works there and does these deeds? Surely it's not automated, done by a machine. This is more rubber than plastic. The lid wouldn't come off with my fingers. It wouldn't come off with a knife. It wouldn't come off with a heavy screwdriver. It just wouldn't come. I began to feel ghoulish, hammering in this screwdriver, and I didn't want to injure anything. Who knew what was inside? I was entering my husband's resting place. It must have taken 15 minutes to pry open the lid to this box. It had become so hard. At one point, I began to wonder if I really should respect his final wishes and divide him up to rest in peace back in New York, leave him in California. Or maybe the intransigence of the box was saying to wait until I got to New York and have the cousins come up to my hotel room and we all divide Bruce up together, but that didn't seem right. The wife should divide the husband, it seemed. Sure. Do the dead care? Should I call Sid? No, that would be like calling your mother right as you're losing your virginity and asking, hey, Mom, is this right, like this? Is there something right? Well, if there's not, why do some things feel right? Open. Finally. A little square of white paper rose to my eyes. Cremation number. And his name. How sweet. And then a sturdy, clear plastic bag twisted shut with an oval iron number plate with the same 5-digit number etched deeply into it. The number plate seemed to have come from, well, an oven. The ashes in the sack were gray. It seemed incredibly tender to make these sweet ashes and then hand them over to me. I was glad I was alone with Bruce. He seemed to be showing me something. The contents appeared to be from very, very long ago or from very far away, but it was only a lifetime. He was showing me something. Take the next step, baby. I lifted out the plastic bag, undid the twisty, slipped the iron number plate off, and set it aside, open. I got a sturdy paper cup to scoop, and there it was, the first scoop. There's a sound and a feel that I shall not forget. Scoop, scoop, scoop. Ashes are not like cigarette ashes, soft. They're more like fine gravel, sturdy. Up I scooped into the 3 plastic baggies so that I would not have to carry all of Bruce on the plane. He would be pre-sorted for the cousins and me on Sunday. I put the 3 plastic bags in 3 large Chinese takeout boxes that I'd purchased for the deed. 1 red, 1 blue, 1 gold. Done with this dividing, I closed the 3 bags and slipped them into their Chinese takeout boxes. Then I did the pretty part. 3 tiny black urns into 2 little silk boxes for the 2 cousins, and 1 black velvet box for myself. Everyone always wanted a piece of Bruce, and now they could have one. The big chocolate box still had some Bruce in it, so I close it up, blow out the candles. On the dining table that night, 3 Chinese food boxes overlooked the Hollywood Hills. New York. Cousin Dick and Cousin Ira would meet me on Sunday at 10 o'clock on the corner of 76th Road and Queens Boulevard. They hadn't seen each other for 25 years, and it took approximately 4 seconds to reacquaint. This was their neighborhood. The boys were instantly laughing, grasping, remembering, sighing, and crying. We drove around. Dick had a car. Look here, look at that. How small. How big. How the same. How different. All these thoughts flood a return like the sea filling hollows of the mind. Waves wash in as if the streets and corners had long ago shaped the brain beach. So many dreams. How basic, how fundamentally you. You know more closely the pattern of a childhood neighborhood than you know yourself. It was November now, so Bruce was 51. Yesterday was that birthday, the one he didn't have to see. I had the 3 Chinese takeout boxes stacked atop one another in a tall, narrow, black sack. I took the tall, black sack by its handles into the deli with the 2 cousins and placed it on the 4th chair. It was about its very own eye level with the Formica table. The waitress brought 4 menus. We munched on pickles, coffee, and a cream soda, and the topic of conversation, of course, turned to Bruce. When we were almost done eating the eggs and the hash browns, the deli owner came over, pulled up a 5th chair, and told us his life story. He leans on the sack's chair as he chronicles. Bruce just loves it. The boys grow up in Queens, Dad owns a deli, now boy runs the deli. Okay, that's all very nice. And now it's time to go sprinkle. Playground first. The playground had been empty when we drove by before breakfast, and now it was full of children whose little laughter seems to come from and go to some distant place. The mothers had grown accustomed to being on guard in the 20th century so that we childless adults, had to be careful not to look too suspect. Dick said, "How about at the foot of every tree? That's where Bruce should be." It rhymed, and it sounded like it would be right, so silently, separately, and a little surreptitiously, we doused the perimeter trees with Bruce. We were in no hurry. We had grown invisible to the mothers. With our Chinese boxes, we walked up the half-block to the building on 76th Road. Cousin Dick lived there in Grandpa's building, too, and Cousin Ira had visited about 10,000 times. Sprinkle, sprinkle. This was easy, a piece of sprinkling cake. No mothers and children, and it seemed like home. Bruce loved it being there. The cousins peered through the glass double doors to look into the lobby. Oops, 2 little old ladies were coming out. "Hello, good morning," we all said like bobbing Europeans, and we slipped right through a crack that the little old ladies left for us. After all, Grandfather had built the building, so how could we trespass? My husband loved the lobby. He was prince of the lobby at 5. And now, at 5:0, he's prince of the lobby again, forever. And then we went out back, very autumnal out in the split between the apartment buildings. We 3 and Bruce were alone. Sprinkle we did. And then I walked down toward the little gate and its back narrow path toward the playground to sprinkle the narrows. I heard Cousin Ira calling to me, "Come back, come back." As if in a dream, he was animated about something, but calm and even calming. What? What was it? Had he found something? He pointed up to a windowsill in the back of the building. A white dove is perched there, looking down at us. The dove looked down, and then back up, and then back down at us again. He tipped his little head to his shoulder. "Hello." Hark. It was the very window of Bruce's family's kitchen. Now look, a second white dove, 1 story up, lands in that window. Oh, that must be David, Ira's twin brother, who died 1 year before. 4 cousins, 2 embodied, the grandfather, the building, 2 white doves, and me, mingling. After we sigh all the sighs we can sigh, we tuck ourselves back up through the fence to the yard to head for our final destination, the subway station. At 76th Road, not an express stop, down we go into Mother Bruce. Round we go through the turnstile, on the platform just a sleeping man or 2, but no regular people. We had eternity to ourselves. We had Bruce. And then sprinkle, sprinkle, sprinkle with abandon. The acoustics were good, so my voice rang out with a song I'd written for Bruce to the tune of some jazzed-up Jewish classic. How did you get to be a guru? How did you get to be so wise? Did it snap and just come right to you? Or was it slow passed through eyes? How did you learn to do the dance? Om Nama Benji Kuru Padma Siddhya. A train pulled in. We sprinkled on the couplings, and then that was that. The train chugged off to everywhere. Ashes under our fingernails, and in our jeans we emerge up to the open air. Done. We didn't have forever to say goodbye to one another because Dick had business on Long Island that afternoon, and in November the afternoons are short. But we can have a beer, can't we, and just say gee for a moment? So we agreed to look for a little place that would be open on Sunday and actually serve beer in this Jewish neighborhood. But wait! Boys spot something happening at the red brick firehouse on the corner. My God! This was our favorite place in the whole world. Look! The same sign is still up there on the red wall. And look! A big red fire truck is pulling up right now. Clang, clang, clang. Oh, yes! That's right, it backs in, of course. How many times did we stand here and watch, the little now big boys said? We're glued in awe as the long truck adeptly twists its tush back into the firehouse. How very, very big it must have been when they were boys, because it was still big. Hey, look at that number. It's number 151. A big gold number 151 against the shiny, shiny red. Divine vehicular meaning hits again. White sob, black sob, red truck, clang, clang, put, put. I can be sure of something. This must be life. It fell on me, life did, and the gray-haired Mex-man picked it up and handed it right back. It didn't run out. His Bruceness is ever present. Fire trucks always back into firehouses. I can only give glory I cannot understand. You made me love you. Amen.